Corbin Burnes still remains on the market unsigned. The Giants are still the front runner for him. Bellinger seems to already have a deal in place to go to the Yankees or Mariners. Money still the issue. That and more next here at The Upside. And welcome into the MLB Upside, or MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us late on a Sunday evening. A slow weekend of transactions, but what a week it was for the MLB winter meetings. Greatest contract in sports history, Juan Soto's 15 years, $765 million. Multiple other deals were done this week as well. Yankees bringing in Max Fried, trading for Devin Williams. Kyle Tucker getting traded by the Houston Astros to the Chicago Cubs. Rangers bringing back Nathan Eovaldi, and several other deals as well. The weekend, though, was a little bit of a dud, to be honest. And thankfully, though, we had a very active winter meetings for the first time in at least about 4 or 5 years now. So congratulations to those teams that were able to get some of their work done at the meetings. But there is still plenty of work to get done. Yankees still need to add a couple of bats out there. Rangers are still looking for some bullpen help. Dodgers are still looking for some bullpen help and a right-handed hitting outfielder as well. Red Sox offseason is not complete. Toronto still hasn't signed anybody. Giants are still in the market for to bring in Burnes as well. Mariners have $15 million to spend this offseason to improve their offense, and they're dangling Castillo and in on Bellinger. A lot of headlines out there, a lot to get to, so we'll start with Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes still the top free agent starter on the market by a mile. His market still very clearly the Giants, Blue Jays, and a mystery team. Could be Boston, could be Texas, could be Baltimore. But it sounds like the Giants are becoming closer and closer to at least getting this thing done. We'll see if they can get it across the finish line tomorrow. Gotta hope with such a slow weekend, everybody just took the weekend off after being out of town at the winter meetings, that hopefully on Monday we get a flurry of activity. So we'll be live tomorrow night for you guys. Make sure you guys join us for our MLB Hot Stove Daily Show as we update you for everything that's going around Major League Baseball. So welcome in Vinny, John, and Mark. Appreciate you for joining us. Another update, John, as you asked there, what's the update on Bellinger? Well, it's still pretty much the same as it was this afternoon. It still looks like Bellinger is going to be the name that is traded from the Chicago Cubs in an effort to save a little bit of money. Cubs are not willing to retain any of that salary. I know we had a couple of Cubs fans in our earlier chat asking, well, why are they just going to trade Bellinger? They should be trying to win in 2025. Wouldn't that mean holding on to Bellinger? One would think, but they need money to go ahead and sign another starting pitcher. They need money to try to add to this offense, and Bellinger would be a subtraction, yes, but the money they're spending on Bellinger, I'd imagine they think they can invest it in a different way, and they view Kyle Tucker as a big upgrade for their offense, no matter what they do for Cody Bellinger. So, you know, you look at the trades that they might have done here. It sounds like they've got a deal already complete with the New York Yankees and with the Seattle Mariners coming from John Heyman, that the only holdup there is really the money. Are the Cubs going to hold on to some of the salary? If so, maybe that increases the return from the Yankees. If they're not willing to hold on to some of the money, do the Yankees even say yes to it because the money now would have to be fully on their books? Those are some of the questions right now that are having to be asked. The other one, for the Seattle Mariners, they have a $15 million strict budget from their ownership. Bellinger makes more than that, and that's one move. They have more work to do to try to improve that lineup. So one way they can do it in kind of a creative way would be to trade a Luis Castillo. Castillo is a very good starting pitcher. However, he is being paid like a very good starting pitcher. So we might have only had one great year as probably the best rotation for the Seattle Mariners in their history. And that might be it. And they might have to trade one of those rotation pieces in order to add to that offense. But ownership, you know, Ryan Divish, one of the Mariners beat reporters, was kind of lamenting with the fan base there that he feels their pain, that, you know, they're sticking to this $15 million self-imposed budget, and it doesn't sound like they're going to add a Bellinger unless some of the salary's retained or they offload some salary to kind of even out the money there. So welcome in, you guys. We've got like 45 of you guys with us already. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Welcome back, Hayden. Welcome back, John. What's the update on Bregman? Still the same three teams. Houston seems to be even further out than they were this afternoon. That meaning, or basically, we have a few more rumors about Nolan Arenado and the fact that they're now leaders in the clubhouse and then some for his services. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get it across the finish line. I still think the Yankees are going to have something to say about it if they don't get Bregman done. But Bregman still seems likely to me to go to one of the three teams: Tigers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays he's still the best fit on. You can't rule out the Tigers because of the connection to A.J. Hinch. And you also look at the Boston Red Sox, how good his swing would fit in that ballpark. And I mentioned the Yankees because they need some lineup help in there. So I still think they need more left-handed hitters, but Bregman would be a very good defender for them at third base, give them some leadership in the clubhouse, and get them a productive bat. Yankees just need bats at this time. Whether they're right-handed or left-handed should not matter to them. Understandably, they've missed on their top two targets so far this offseason, being Juan Soto and Kyle Tucker, to improve this offense. Alonso is still out there. The update on Pete Alonso there, Vinny, is that his market, instead of being around 125, 135, as we guessed before the season or before the winter meetings, his market now looks to be in the $180 million range over 6 years. So it does sound like the Mets are still likely to get this one done, but it's not done yet. So I'd say probably an 85-90% likelihood he goes to the Mets. If maybe somebody offers him more, say $200 million over 7, maybe he goes to a different team. But right now it looks like he is going to head back to the Mets. I still think teams like the Mariners, who have the need at first base, could be a fit there. But again, $15 million self-imposed budget, that ain't going to get you Pete Alonso. I don't even think it gets you Christian Walker. And, I still think the Mets are going to be the team that gets the deal done. Hayden, my guess is the deal with the Yankees and Cubs is done. It's just the money. Exactly. That's the reporting out there from John Heyman, anyways, that the deal is essentially agreed to as far as the players. It's just a matter of the Yankees not willing to take back the money on Bellinger. They were assuming the Cubs would be eating some of that salary for the players they had agreed to. Now, if for some reason the Cubs finally decide to acquiesce to their request and hold on to some of the money for Bellinger, then we could see something different there. But let us know in the comments section where you think Bellinger goes. What do you guys think happens with Corbin Burnes? But those are kind of our top 2 items there tonight. Let us know in the chat what you guys think of our stream. We've had a lot of success with you guys this week. We gained close to 120, I think is what our total count was during our coverage of the winter meetings and over the last few days. Had a lot of fun, a lot of fan response over the last couple of days as well. So thank you guys for joining us here at the Upside. We'll be live with you guys for probably about a half hour, go over a couple of different moves that have been made since the last time we were on, and a surprising offer on Juan Soto as well. In fact, let's go ahead and start there. Let me pull up my screen for you guys. MLB Trade Rumors tweeted out when he was still on the market, the Rays made an offer to Juan Soto. Just read that headline again. While he was still on the market, the Rays made an offer to Juan Soto. Unbelievable. Why do I say this? I mean, Juan Soto was the best free agent on the market. I get it. When and ever in their history have the Rays paid at top dollar anywhere close to what Soto might have earned, even on the offer from the Nationals, let alone $765 million that he got from the Mets. Just incredible that they were in there. Another surprising turn of events for them, because remember a few years ago when Freddie Freeman was on the market, who was another team that offered the same deal that the LA Dodgers did? It was the Tampa Bay Rays. They offered him the $150 million. Just incredible the way Rays are kind of sneaking into the comment section here. You know, just saying, hey, by the way, we were in there for Soto. We were in there for Freddie Freeman. Just unbelievable that they can kind of come out and do this kind of a thing when they're known to do what they just did with Jeffrey Springs. Say, oh, you're making a little bit of money this year? Nah, we're good. We need to trade that salary because we're, a small market team. We need to be mindful of our payroll. So we'll trade you to the A's, who need some rotation help, absolutely. But we're not getting anybody of immediate impact back. They get a great pick, don't get me wrong, in the compensation round A pick, but come on now. This is a team that's notoriously been very cheap. And to be even in the conversation for a Soto is surprising. Now, maybe it's just, tongue-in-cheek. Hey, we offered him a deal. Could have been $10 an hour, working for the club. They would have offered him a deal, but, just as a fan of baseball, I don't necessarily want to say we want to stick to what we know. You're a small market team. You can only pitch to small market type of free agents. You're a big market team. You can only go after big market free agents. I don't want to go that far. But I do want to say when you're getting into the free agent market for some of these guys, let's realize that some of these teams never stood a chance. And why are we even putting our name in the fray for something like this? It does nothing for the Rays. Just kind of reinforces how cheap you are as a franchise to the point where you're offloading guys like Jeffrey Springs. You're going to be trading away a Yandy Diaz. You just gave away Isaac Paredes. He was a really good player on that roster, and they ultimately traded him for a whole bunch of minor league guys and for some lower level or some upper level prospects that were able to come in and make a difference for them on their roster, but nobody at the level of Paredes. It just underscores the inability for them to usually go out there and spend in free agency. They've spent on Evan Longoria, their only one of their own, and haven't really done so since. Now, we'll see. Maybe they go out there and they finally get one of these big guys, and then we can change the narrative entirely. Maybe they change cities. They've been talking about that for, 20 years. And until they do something like that, I would like to see the Rays stop doing things like this. Hey, we were the second place team here for Freddie Freeman. Hey, we were in there for Juan Soto. All right, let's get out of the chat, guy. Come on now. All right, Saint, welcome back. No, the Mets are interested in Alonso. Yes, they are. See at night. Welcome in. I think this is the first time I've seen you send us a message. Appreciate you for joining us. If you're new here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Rays offered a higher AAV shorter-term deal with opt-outs. Not a surprise. Texan, welcome back. They are hoping Soto wanted to live on the beach in Florida. I guess. Was it worth an extra $300 million to do it? Probably not. Alrighty, let's get back to some real headlines, though. Some moves that actually did get made. Nick Solak, former Texas Ranger, was a really good bat at one point. His inability to stay healthy with the Rangers towards the end, inability to stay in the lineup, really hurt him. He's been, kind of bouncing around a little bit the last year or so. Signs a minor league deal with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's looking for offense. Nick Solak's more of a bat-first player anyway, so I like the move for Pittsburgh here as they add another middle infielder to their group. Rangers did make another minor league deal, bringing in pitcher Michael Plasmeyer. More depth there for the Rangers. Drew Pomerantz, Mariners ultimately brought him in on a minor league deal. If he's healthy, that could be a very good depth signing for them. If he breaks through minor league camp and gets onto the major league roster, he could really be a nice player for them. Really like the acquisition by the Mariners on a shoestring budget this offseason. If he's healthy, they've got a really good option there as a 7th, 8th inning guy to now where they can trade guys at the back end of that bullpen and allow, if Pomerantz is right, to step in and take that role on a very inexpensive deal. Really like the move there for the Mariners. Jose Siri did an incredible thing here, stealing home. Just look at the out of the baseline-ness, though, there. Just Major League Baseball, he would have been out because he ran so far out of the baseline, but still, incredible there. Mets should be happy about that one. Welcome in, John. Welcome back, David. Let's see here. Just want to check in and see if there's anything else that is happening. Oh, we did see Tanaka. He did finally go to the Yomiuri Giants anyway. He's been the last 4 years with his former team. I can't remember the team name anyway, but he left the Yankees, decided to go back over to Japan, stayed with his former team, Rakuten. That was it, the Rakuten Eagles. And now is on to the team that he said he had interest in playing with, the Giants. Definitely not the same pitcher he used to be. Strikeout rates is down, but a good signing nonetheless internationally. And then the Phillies are looking to decrease the workload for JT Realmuto. This is kind of what we expect as catchers get a little older. That's why I keep bringing up the Orioles and how big of an advantage they have with Adley Rutschman being able to play behind the plate. His bat, because of how good he is offensively, and he can catch, really gives them a great advantage offensively, having a bat like that in the lineup and at the catcher spot. They don't have to put him at first base where you have to have a good guy to hit. A catcher, most teams don't have a hitting catcher back there that can at least hit for average or at least give him some power. And so when you have a really good offensive catcher back there, it really does set your team up well for success offensively. And Philadelphia has that with JT Realmuto. The Orioles have that with Adley Rutschman. This is where we're going to kind of pivot to the Orioles discussion here. I've talked quite a bit about the Orioles the last couple of days, and I really want to drive home my point that I've been making all week. The Orioles are once again in a very difficult spot when it comes to pitching. Corbin Burns is on the free agent market. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to re-sign him. They have Eflin and Rodriguez as their as their 1 and 2 in their rotation right now, and it doesn't look like there's any hope that they're going to get a number 1 starter via free agency, and unlikely that they'll land one via trade. Now, there's still the possibility of Dylan Cease among others, but for me, Corbin Burns was in your camp already. You made the trade last year to try to bring him in. You gave away the prospects with the expectation he was going to be hitting free agency after the year. You knew he was going to be signing a 6 or 7 year deal as long as he stayed healthy. He's a Cy Young caliber pitcher when he's right. And you're letting him walk for essentially a compensation round? Come on, man. This is where the Orioles need to figure out their direction as a franchise. Because, like I said earlier, they're short-circuiting their championship window here. You only have probably 3, maybe 4 years of this contending run where Adley's going to be behind the plate before you have to bring him out and play him at first base or DH. Then you're starting to have to pay all your other position players. Henderson gets more expensive. Holiday eventually will get more expensive. You're going to have to lose some guys out of the back end of that lineup as well. Your prospects that you were hoping would fill some of those spots are now on other teams because you had to keep trading to fill out the rotation. At a certain point, it's going to short-circuit everything here. And as much as the Orioles look like the team to beat going forward over the next 10 years, say 2-3 years ago, when Rutschman came up, they draft Henderson, then they draft Holiday as well. This is a team that was looking like one of the best, built minor league systems in the entire business, and now they're continuing to dismantle it because they can't figure out their pitching rotation. And that's a big problem for me. They have to figure that out. And until they do, I want to continue to air out that Orioles front office until they solve that problem. Alrighty, let's see if we can get to some of these other news and notes, or other comments anyway. Texan, because of the cost of living and state income taxes, $165 million in Houston is worth more than $200 million in New York or California. That sounds about right. Hayden, David, I think Bellinger would be a Yankee. I do think he will ultimately go to the Yankees. Hayden, Tanaka should tell Roki that the Yankees are a great organization. I mean, every team's got to try anything at this point to try to bring him in. But remember, when we got the news last week that media size might be a bit of a problem. And so if that's already been a problem in Japan, just wait until he gets into the fishbowl that's New York. All the pressure, high impact. it's never going to end there. I'm not saying they're completely out of the running, but I am saying it's a factor in his decision. And the Dodgers are kind of in the same boat. He's got a couple of friends already on the team. Yankees have done really well with handling international players as well. I wouldn't say any team is necessarily out on him besides maybe the Rockies and Marlins, but all the rest of the teams in the league should really be looking to sign Roki. He's a great starting pitcher, probably going to come in and be your number 2 or 3 type starter this year, probably your ace going forward after that. He's that good of a starting pitcher, and he's only going to cost you about $5.1 million. That's incredibly cheap for such a high impact signing. Everybody and their mother is going to want in on this one. Dodgers still considered the favorite. The next 4 would probably be the Padres, Texas, San Francisco, and the Mariners. Then you get into the Cubs, Mets, Yankees type of group, and then everybody else. But we'll see where things go. Can't believe they wanted to trade him. True. Let's see here. Anything on Tanner Scott? Nothing today. With the trade of Devin Williams on Friday, I'm wondering if everybody just tried to get home on Saturday and Sunday and just kind of recuperate from the winter meetings. Maybe that's why we haven't really seen any big deals, but hopefully we get more activity Monday or Tuesday, and I'm expecting the relievers to be the next group of free agents that comes flying off the board here. Burns, I'm expecting early this coming week anyway, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Bregman, same kind of thing. Bellinger, same thing there. Most of the teams like to get the majority of their business done, some of the bigger business items before Christmas. Most free agents like to do the same thing, so they might be willing to, acquiesce to some of the contract demands of these teams. Not willing to go as far as term, not willing to go as high as AAV, things of that nature. So you're going to see some flexibility in the offers over the next week. So we're going to see some action. We're not going to see what we did the last couple of days, which is literally crickets. So, we'll see where they go. John, any updates on Josh Naylor? Only one I've seen anyway is that the Yankees could pursue him as a first base alternative. I'll believe it when I see it, but the Guardians are looking to improve this year. I don't see there's a piece out there right now that they would trade Naylor for in order to improve their ball club. So I don't think he's really going anywhere at this point. Texan, who will sign Santander? That's a huge bet. I agree. I think it's pretty much going to be anybody who misses out on Burns or Bregman is really going to have a chance to bring in Santander. One exception to that being the Houston Astros. Now that they've traded away Kyle Tucker, they have a need for a corner outfield bat. Teoscar Hernandez kind of fits that bill, but so does Santander. Hernandez has a stronger market, though, between the Dodgers, the Yankees, Red Sox. All those teams have interest, in addition to the teams that are in on Santander, that being the Toronto Blue Jays and others. I think Houston would be a great fit for him. I think Toronto would as well. I think he ultimately goes to one of those two teams. I think he's probably going to get a 5-year, $20 million, 5-year, $20 million average annual value contract, break the $100 million threshold. That seems to be where his market is headed. At least that was the headline on Friday evening when we last checked in on it. But, we'll see where he goes. I think he'd be a great fit in either spot, but I think Toronto is looking for bigger fish right now. Most notably, I think they're trying to get Bregman. I think they're trying to get Burns. For me, I think the perfect fit for them is still Bregman. He solves so many issues for them, both in the short term and the long term. We'll see if they can get that one across the finish line. But so far, they've been the bridesmaid this year in free agency, a lot like the Giants had been for the last 5 years. I really hope that's not going to be the case here for Toronto as they continue to miss on their top free agent targets the last couple of years. But, struggles, short-term deals left for Vladdy and Bo Bichette. They're kind of a team in flux right now. So, you got to be able to, show stability to the organization, show stability among your front office, stability among your coaching staff, stability among your players. And free agents see the writing on the wall that if they don't win, they might not have Vlad Guerrero Jr. there. They might not have the same general manager that signs them to a deal, by the trade deadline. There's some big changes that could be coming in Toronto if they don't win. So that might be scaring off some free agents if they're trying to go there because of, say, a general manager or because of the coach or whatever the case may be. Money does talk, but at a certain point, you really like stability as well, knowing how your team is going to perform. You prefer to be in contention rather than to be a bottom dweller. And if the Toronto Blue Jays are just going to bottom out, at the trade deadline, if they're not in contention, that's not exactly somewhere Alex Bregman, who's been in the playoffs for pretty much his entire career since he came up to the big leagues. I don't think that would be a place where he wants to go. You're going to have to overwhelm him with money to overcome that, fear of, falling into the oblivion, really, going into the abyss of not being able to compete. And that's a risk that you have when you're signing with Toronto this offseason because you don't really have a guarantee that they're going to keep this team together. I'm sure they'd love to try. I'm sure they'd love to have Vladdy back, sign him long term. I'm sure they'd love to have Bo Bichette, but there's no guarantee either one of them are here after the trade deadline, let alone after the season. You've been hearing a lot of Yankee Bregman rumors. I'm glad you have. I think that would have been a great fit all along. I think he'd be a great third base fit. Tom Verducci said as much on MLB Network during the winter meetings. Dan O'Dowd as well. I think the defense he would bring would really help clubhouse leadership. And we aren't even addressing the bat. Sure, he would fit better offensively, profiles better in, say, Boston. But the AL East is a very difficult division. Bringing in a very good right-handed bat is still going to help you not only at your home ballpark, but in all the others as well. By the way, the Yankees and Red Sox, they play a few games a year. You might be able to utilize him as opposed to having him be utilized against you in a series. So something you might want to take into account is that if you lose him and the Red Sox sign him, you're going to be wishing you had signed him the entire time. You're going to be looking at it going, hey, is this the next Carlos Correa and Josh Donaldson type of move where they trade for Arenado rather than bringing in a Bregman this year? Rather than signing Correa, they bring in Josh Donaldson. Is that the route they're going to go once again? Something to think about. Yankees are still looking to improve their bullpen. Tanner Scott makes some sense. Dodgers are seen as the favorite right now for him. We'll see if they can get that one across the finish line. Also, you think Vlad could get traded since he rejected the Blue Jays offer? I think it's very possible if they get to the deadline and they're out of contention, he's not willing to extend the deal, then I think the Blue Jays would be right to go out there and try to get something for him. Your guess is Corbin signs with Texas 7 for $235. Hey, from your lips to God's ears, my friend. I mean, as a Ranger fan, I would absolutely love that, John. Rangers would love to have a 1-2-3 that features DeGrom, Eovaldi, and Burns. You know, mix them up however you want. That would be a great 1-2-3 in any postseason series. I just don't think Texas right now has the dogs in the fight. I think it's starting to lean heavy towards the San Francisco Giants right now, and that's coming as a Rangers fan. As much as I would love it, as much as I was hoping they would do it, before they even signed DeGrom, I was hoping for it as a Rangers fan. Rangers front office had sent out feelers that they were looking at Corbin Burns and the free agency when he did come up, that they were really going to try to push for him. Well, then I don't think they really counted on the fact that they would sign Jacob DeGrom. Ownership was adamant about winning that year. CY came in and got the job done. Sure, injuries came into play. They overpaid. I get all that. But for me, they've spent the money on DeGrom now. I just don't see financially where they're going to overpay to the point where he says no to the Giants. I think Giants are going to have a very comparable offer to that 7 for $235 that you mentioned. And if all things are equal, I think he's probably going to choose to go with the Giants. Not necessarily because of the winning, but more about the fact that they're building a really competitive team out there, and they are supposed to have more money next year as well to possibly go after a Kyle Tucker, a Vlad Guerrero Jr., a Bo Bichette. All those types of things are in play with the San Francisco Giants, whereas the Rangers have their money already tied up in the roster. Now, sure, they won a World Series in 2023, great, all those kinds of things, but injuries, poor performance, obviously you saw how they finished this year. We'll see where he goes, but I think he wants to go back home. We saw the deleted Instagram, Facebook post anyway. We'll see what happens. Welcome back, Cobra. Yankees fans, Tatis will never be traded. I do not think he will at this point anymore. I think he's kind of solidified himself once again with that Padres front office. I don't want him because he's scared to be without it. Okay. All right, Aiden. Welcome back, Sub-Zero. Yankees need first base, third base, relief, and a starting pitcher, and then they're a World Series contender. They do need to add. To me, they need to add 2 bats to that lineup, whether it be a center fielder, a first baseman, a third baseman. They need 2 bats. They need to improve their infield defense, specifically third base. They need to get Aaron Judge out of center field, so they need somebody to come in and play that spot. As much as Trent Grisham is a nice piece as a 4th outfielder, I don't want him in my lineup every day. And so I'd like to see them do something different out there in regards to their center field spot. If they bring in a guy like Cody Bellinger, immediately solves that problem for them. If they don't bring in Cody Bellinger, then they're going to have to go on the free agent market for, say, a guy like Harrison Bader, Michael Taylor. Those aren't exactly overwhelmingly successful options out there in center field. If they go the trade route, I don't know if there's really any options out there besides Cody Bellinger. I mean, maybe Leody Taveras could be had from the Texas Rangers. To me, he's a very comparable player already to a Trent Grisham. Not sure if that's really a great fit there, but he's really good at defense, would help them defensively. Grisham's not bad at defense, though, either. Sox fan, who deleted a Twitter? It was an Instagram or Facebook post, I can't remember which, but Corbin Burns posted a picture of him on the Golden Gate Bridge saying, feels like home, with Logan Webb, the starting pitcher for the Giants, liking the post. He took it down after like 20 minutes. Supposedly that's the rumor out there. I've yet to see the picture anyway, but that's the rumor that's been going around. we'll see. I think it'd be a great fit for both the Rangers, the Blue Jays, the Giants. I think he'd fit pretty much anywhere. He's a great number one. But for me, the Orioles are the team that should have been in this all along. They should have already gotten this deal done. And at this point, I really worry about the long-term future of the Orioles going forward. You think the Yankees will go all out for Tucker and Vlad next offseason? I do. I think they're going to go hard after both. Specifically Vlad, Tucker to a lesser extent. Not because he's not an equally great player. I just think positionally Vlad fits them better right now. Tucker would probably make them do some different things in their outfield, whether it be moving Judge to another spot or Dominguez. It would give you another improvement in their defense or in their offense anyway, in their outfield. But for me, I think Vlad would fit them a little bit better. But I do think they're going to go out for both. Grisham is good during the playoff run. I don't know why the Yankees never played him. It's because he's good in spurts. He's not good every day. He's good in spurts when you can use him in certain situations, when you give him a real advantage to succeed. Why do platoons work? Because they're put in positions to succeed. Right-handed hitters are brought off the bench because a lefty can't get a hit off of a left-handed hitter. They're brought in specifically to hit against a left-handed pitcher whenever that lefty can't do it. And so I think that's the type of player Trent Grisham has become. He's more of a platoon player at this point. Defensive guy, a defensive substitution late in a game, still provides you immense value, speed on the bases. None of those are bad things. It's just that having him in the game for 162 every year, I just think you could do a little bit better out there in center field. Bellinger would be a one of those guys that'd be a significant improvement. Jose Iglesias has talked to the Yankees. That would be a great signing for them. Low-cost signing that would help their infield defense, probably at second base or at third. I think you could play either spot. Put Jazz Chisholm over there at second. I think would be better defensively for him. And then they should add a first baseman. They should bring in a Christian Walker type or a Bellinger. I would like that signing for Iglesias. But again, that's going cheap. Yankees fans don't really like going cheap in free agency or going the shortcut route. To me, it looks like, if I'm reading what the Yankees fans have been telling us for the last couple of years, they didn't like the Josh Donaldson move. They'd rather have had Carlos Correa. If that same logic applies, then why would they do something short term when there's a long term answer, aircraft carrier type player in Alex Bregman out there on the free agent market that could solve their issues defensively and be a key cog in that offense, give some lineup depth, protect Aaron Judge in that lineup, and then still possibly trade for a Cody Bellinger. A lineup with Bellinger, Bregman, possibly a Walker in there would be a better overall lineup than with just Juan Soto last year. So we'll see. Hayden, no, we don't. As Yankees fan, I hated Josh Donaldson. That's kind of my point here. Why are the Yankees fans, pushing back so hard initially on Bregman? That was all I heard initially when I kept bringing up Bregman. They kept saying, "Oh, well, his bat doesn't really play well in Yankee Stadium." Hogwash. He's a great player. You take him away from division rivals. He solves your issues defensively. He solves some of the questions you have about the clubhouse, if you had any to begin with, like I do. And then you can still solve the other issues as far as center field and first base. I don't understand the hesitation Yankees fans had initially about his swing not fitting there. It's a bigger picture issue for the Yankees than that. It's about getting some more bats in that lineup, period. Even if Christian Walker is a right-handed hitter, he's still going to be a better first baseman than what they had at the end of last year or at any time last year. Rizzo is, I'll put it this way, washed at this point. They need to move in a different direction. Walker was a great first baseman last year. I think he had a 6.8 WAR last year. I think that would be a great improvement for them. John, what's up? Have I heard anything on the Orioles today? Sadly, no. The only things we've really heard over the weekend is the trade interest in some of the guys that might become available. Players like Dylan Cease have started to pique the interest, as well as Luis Castillo of the Orioles front office. And to me, this speaks volumes for where they are as a team. This is a team that's not been willing to spend in free agency. They go a little bit cheaper in free agency to bring in O'Neill. You think, okay, great, they're saving money on Santander by not bringing him back, going out there and getting a very similar player in Tyler O'Neill for basically half the money. And now you're not going to go out there and spend the money and bring in Corbin Burns to at least bring him back. You're not going to spend the money and bring in Nathan Eovaldi. Those are some big questions that the Orioles, I think, have failed to answer successfully. Looking at this offseason, or even at their last 2 years, they traded for Jack Flaherty at the deadline. Doesn't work. He had a horrible year with the Orioles. I get it. Doesn't work, you let him walk. He has a great resurgent year with the Tigers, goes on to the Dodgers, and now they're at least interested in bringing him in again. That could be a great number two option for them, honestly, in free agency. But then they go out there and trade for Corbin Burns last year before the season started. You knew at the time Burns was going to be hitting free agency after the year. You knew he was going to be asking for roughly 7 for about 210. You had to have been comfortable at that time with that contract demand if you're willing to give up the pieces to trade for him with 1 year left in free agency. Same thing with the Kyle Tucker going to the Cubs. You have to be comfortable going to the top of the market next offseason to be able to re-sign him. Same thing with the New York Yankees. If they had been able to get the trade done, you have to be willing to go to that number in free agency if you go for a guy for 1 year. And so with Corbin Burns, the Orioles get their number one ace in that rotation. Things are going well. They fall short in the playoffs once again, but they still need more starting pitching. And instead of adding to a rotation that would still have Burns in it, they might subtract Burns. And then they have not only one hole in that rotation, now they need to fill that ace role in that staff. And the only options they really have are Dylan Cease and Luis Castillo on the trade market. That's not exactly giving me a whole lot of confidence if I'm an Orioles fan. I want Burns back. I don't think they're going to get him. And I think this team is seeing things very short-sightedly when it comes to their money. Sure, they're trying to save money from ownership. I get it. Elias isn't comfortable going long-term on a starting pitcher. I get it. But at a certain point, you look at your staff and say, Grayson Rodriguez is our number one if we go into the World Series. Zach Eflin is our number two. We're immediately down 2-0 in any series we have in the playoffs. I don't care how good your offense is. In the playoffs, you're going to be going up against elite rotations. Mariners are going to be there if they get their offense right. Texas Rangers, if they get injuries right. Houston Astros have a better rotation than the Orioles do right now. Yankees have a better rotation. Red Sox have a better rotation. Even the Blue Jays have a better rotation right now than the Orioles. Teams out of the Central, the Guardians, the Royals, and the Tigers all have better rotations right now than the Baltimore Orioles. That offense can only carry you so far. Once you get to October, it's all about pitching, and you have to have a couple of prime-time performance offensively to carry you over the top. Orioles don't have that right now, and so I think they're going to get bounced early in the playoffs no matter what they do if they don't address that starting pitching. We'll see if they can get it done. Alrighty, you think Bregman can get 7 for 250? Possibly. I think he's still going to be in that 7 for 210, 8 for 240 range, more than likely. Padres fan, I want Seiya Suzuki for Cease. If I'm a Cubs fan, I sign on the dotted line right now. How quick can I get the offer in before you change your mind? I'm sorry, if I'm the Padres right now, I'd rather have Cease than Seiya Suzuki. Suzuki might give you, a stopgap solution for Profar, but I'd still rather sign Profar in free agency. Cease is going to require more in return for me if I'm going to offload him if I'm the Padres. Welcome in, Drew. Giants need a relief pitcher as well. They might trade one with Doval, but they are looking for relief pitchers. Almost every team is. Cobra, what do you give for Arise? Good question there. Curious to see what his answer is here. Let's see here. Volcanics. Appreciate you for joining us, trying to catch up on all these comments here. It's awesome to find this channel. You know what you're talking about. A lot of nonsense on baseball. Yeah. There's a lot of nonsense out there. There's not a whole lot of great coverage anymore, even from the network. I mean, MLB Network doesn't have a whole lot of shows anymore. MLB Hot Stove is one in the morning, but it's more of a comedy hour variety show at this point, I guess is the best way to put it. Not necessarily known for their news. They've fallen a long way from where they used to be, with Ken Rosenthal giving you great information every morning and then filling in more information with Morosi, with Feinsand, with Heyman, with Sherman. They would add all those guys in there and then still do the, where does this guy land? Where does this guy land? Now it's basically a variety show in the morning. It kind of sucks, and it's sad to see. You don't have MLB Now in the afternoons or High Heat to really go to. MLB Tonight is basically a highlight show and patting guys on the back. It's nothing newsworthy anymore, and so the network has become a very difficult thing to watch. And there's very few places anywhere else to really get your baseball coverage. I mean, none of the other networks really cover baseball, especially in the off season. Pretty much nobody covers it. Sure, you have a few podcasts out there, but even those, they aren't exactly giving us what we want as fans. So I'm glad you guys have joined us over the last couple of weeks anyway, as we've really created a nice group, a nice following, especially in the last 3 days. We've been over 100 viewers consistently at different times in our videos. just talking baseball, going over, where these teams could, make additions, what teams could trade other pieces. Where's a free agent going to go? Is the contract worth it or not? Is he still a good player or is he washed? All those kinds of things we discuss and more. And I really appreciate you guys joining us along the ride. It's been a lot of fun. Hit that like and subscribe and send us a comment. We'd be happy to know where you're watching from. I know we have got several people watching from Canada. I know we had one from Belgium and Brussels. I know we had another one from Venezuela. A bunch of people from Florida. I'm based in Texas, so I get a lot of Texas viewers as well. But I try to cover the game as fairly as I possibly can. I acknowledge my bias that I do have a fandom for the Rangers anyway. But I try to keep it. I try to keep it 100% honest with you guys at all times. So I try to keep up with my information as well. Make sure you guys are informed. I know it's very difficult in the world we live in to follow all these different media sources, not just Twitter for all these different posts that you get out there, but other news sources as well. So I try to give you as much information as quickly as I get it. So really appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. Texan, the Astros are in salary problems. They're over the limit and have to pay the tax. I don't think they'll offer Bregman $200. I think they're completely out on Bregman. I think it's just lip service right now to just keep the fan base off their back. They save a little bit of money here on Tucker. I still think they're going to save more money on Presley. They're going to add a outfielder to replace Tucker, possibly a Santander, possibly a first baseman as well. One possibility is Arenado being traded from the Cardinals and Paredes being flipped over to first base. Yandy Diaz was a target they had at the deadline. I wouldn't be surprised if he is dealt to the Astros. A lot of irons in the fire right now for Houston. Rizzo is a free agent. Yes, he is, Hayden. Let's see here. Trying to go through some of these comments again. What if the Yankees sign Walker Buehler? They already have a pretty good rotation. I don't think there's room for him. I think you'd rather go to a spot where you can compete still and get guaranteed innings. A team like the Cubs make a lot more sense. The Mets make a lot more sense. The Braves make a lot more sense. Yankees, I think, are focused primarily on relief help and for a couple of bats, a third base, first base, center field options right now. I think that's where they're holding him. You want Tim Hill back? Okay, let's see here. Free agent Sub-Zero. Hayden, will the Mets sign him? Possibly. Cobra, you want Volcanics, you got me hooked on my first show. This is pretty awesome. Well, thank you, Volcanics. I appreciate it. Thank you for the compliments. I really do appreciate all the support. Thank you for liking and subscribing. You're in Baltimore. All right. Got a Baltimore fan there, or a Baltimore area fan anyway. You'd rather have Volpe. All right. Sick of getting videos from random homers talking about how their team is going to sign Sasaki for no real reason. True, but every fan base has a right to hope and dream on it. I don't really fault those, teams or those guys with their rose-colored glasses. I have my own rose-colored glasses for the Rangers, but I realize the Dodgers are the significant favorite here, probably an 80% favorite, whereas the Padres, Rangers, Giants, and Mariners each have maybe a 2 to 3% chance of getting them, but they're one of the few teams that already has a meeting on the books with Sasaki. There's like 8 teams now that have meetings already scheduled, so we'll see where it goes. Got a fan from New York, Ontario. Awesome. Appreciate you guys joining us. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Welcome in Elsa's dad, Vegas. Alrighty. That's where I hopefully will be getting married next year. So we'll see. Lucky lady is anxious to get that one done. So with any of y'all's luck, or with any luck anyway, we'll get this channel to be so successful we can have a really nice time out there when we do have that happen in 2026, I think is the plan, at least at the moment. Breaking news, Cobra and I discussed Yankees will send DJ for Luis Ariz. I like that one, Hayden. Alrighty, let's go ahead and just check in on a couple of other headlines, see if anything else is happening at the moment. Rays have gone with another depth signing here, Jake Brentz. Nice arm for them. This is the type of arm the Rays really do well with. We'll see what they get out of him. Vermont, all right, Sub-Zero. I was wondering where you were from, because I know you're in our chat quite frequently. But there's the Solak deal. Kind of went over all those deals. Let's go ahead and flip over to MLB Trade Rumors, see if they've got anything new at the moment. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Yeah, I've been engaged now for, can't remember how long it's been. A year almost? It was in February when I asked anyway, and we're waiting for the right time, but we've decided Vegas is where we'll end up doing it. Tying the knot. So thank you for the support. Appreciate that. Doesn't look like they have too many other headlines as well. Um, Part of the deal for Zunino. Da, 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 da. I don't see anything else of real interest there. Alrighty, like I said, this weekend has kind of been a bust as far as transactions, but we did have a great week of moves from the winter meetings. Juan Soto really kicked it off really well. Couple of new guys going into the Hall of Fame. That was good to see. Really good stories as well for the two guys getting in, Dick Allen and I can see his face. Former guy that ran the Diamondbacks. Was it Dave Stewart? I think it was Dave Stewart. But congratulations to those two there. Welcome in from San Antonio. Great town. Been there several times in my life. When do you think Bellinger deal might get done? I'm expecting that one sometime early this week. I was hoping it would get done, honestly, by now. But it sounds like deals have already been agreed to. It's just the money that's holding things up. And once we get to that number, one team eventually will blink one way or the other. Dave Parker, thank you. Thank you, Mark. That one was stumping me for a minute there. But I do think Bellinger gets done early this coming week. I think the Twins are going to trade Correa. I think that's going to happen after the end of the year. I think that one's more of a January trade when players have already signed to deals elsewhere. If there's still a hole in a roster, maybe a team will check in with them and say, hey, you willing to eat a little bit of money, get off the rest of the money for Correa. We'll give you a little bit of money, a few prospects back in return. Twins are hurting for financially. The team needs some direction. There's some interest anyway from the owner of the Phoenix Suns to own the team, so we'll see what they do. But financially, they're not exactly in a great space, and to offload the money of Correa might make it a more appealing team to be able to acquire financially. And they're looking at things through a financial hourglass more than a championship hourglass right now. We'll see which direction the Twins go, but for me, they're going to be looking to offload salaries rather than add. They might add small one-year contracts here and there just to fill some gaps, but trading a major piece off of that roster like Correa might be the best thing for them from a financial standpoint. But we'll see. Bringing in the Phoenix Suns owner Ishbia would be a great thing for them. I think it would open up the coffers just a little bit for them to be more competitive in free agency. Cobra, would it be wild if the Angels come out of nowhere and sign Sasaki? I think that ship is completely out of the water. That one's not happening. Ohtani, you can kind of see he had a great time while he was there, appreciated the team, but they never won. And Sasaki, became friends with Ohtani during this process and sees how it worked. The second Ohtani left town or left the Angels, even went to the crosstown rival, the Los Angeles Dodgers. First year, wins. Just incredible, just an incredible turn of events for Ohtani. Just being probably the best player in the game, not really being recognized for it because he's not in the playoffs. Can't really showcase that skill. And in his first year with the Dodgers, he can't even pitch. He's still at an MVP level. He's still the main force that gets them to the final and gets them the World Series championship. Just incredible season by Ohtani. Sasaki just saw all of that play out. I don't think there's a prayer that he goes to the Angels. Sub-Zero, can you tell me what it would take for the Yankees to get Arenado from the Cards? Not a whole lot. I think the Cardinals would be more than happy to trade him for a small package of prospects, say 2 top 20 guys, as long as you take on all the money. If you're going to make the Cardinals eat some of that money, it might require a top 10 guy and a couple of top 30 guys on top of that. So, it's all about the money right now for the Yankees. How much are they willing to take on and trade, and how much do they need to spend in free agency? They're the Yankees. They're one of the mega teams out there, one of the deepest pocket teams out there. Dodgers, Mets also in that category. Toronto has a lot of money as well. And, nobody should be crying poor for them. I mean, they have the money to get this thing done. It's just a matter of how much are they really willing to take on from a financial standpoint. They have competition now in that category as being one of the most, financially backed teams in the business. And it cost them the ability to sign Juan Soto when they didn't, or when, say, 20, 30 years ago, they wouldn't have had the same competition for Juan Soto as they do now. There wasn't the Guggenheim group out there with LA. There isn't the Steve Cohen holding the, or owning the crosstown rival New York Mets. The Yankees were really the only team in town when it came to big-time contracts like that. Red Sox, to a lesser extent, you see what their ultimate goal was, though. They wanted to do something similar to what the A's and Rays have done. You see how that works out. The Red Sox fan base really didn't appreciate that, and that's why the Red Sox ownership group and front office structure kind of said, hey, our bad, we realized this didn't work, we'll get back to spending a little bit of money. Yet they really haven't done that. They went out there and traded for Garrett Crochet. Now, they may try to get an extension done. That would be great. but they still haven't spent in free agency. And until they do, it still looks a lot like the Rays and A's model that they've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years. More of the same. But we'll see. You're ready for Jenkins? Okay. Arenado only wants to go to 6 teams. Padres is one of them. He's waived his no trade for 6 teams. I would think he would amend that to some others if a trade became available to, say, New York. I think that would be a very likely opportunity for him as well. Hayden, honestly, I don't think the Dodgers should get Roki because of the rumors and them saying they already have a contract for Roki. It was pretty fishy. I'm sure every team is going to be giving them the full $5.1 million. There's not going to really be any hemming and hawing about what the contract could be. If it was free agency, maybe you could argue that, but it's already open bidding. You can go ahead and sign him right now if you wanted to. Just because he wants to wait until next year's signing period doesn't mean it's illegal for you to go out there and try to get the deal done now. The only reason he's waiting is because it frees up more money for him to be able to get when he signs at the $5.1 million number. If he signs before that, all the other teams really have spent some money in international free agency. He could only sign for whatever they have left of their bonus pool, either that, or if they have deals that haven't been finished yet, they're going to have to void those deals before they get them finished and then give it to him. So the only reason why we're waiting here on Sasaki is we're waiting for the new league year to start on the international bonus pool money, which again is the 15th of January. He's going to take all the meetings, he's going to discuss all those things, and then he's going to make his decision. We may even know his decision before the end of the year. I doubt it, but we may. And then he's finally going to sign on the dotted line after the 15th of January. So, as much as we might think something's fishy with how this thing is going on, just relax, take a breath. It's, just the process going through what it needs to go through. He wants to sign for the most money that's available, and that happens after the 15th. He can still sign for right now, but he can't sign for the most money, at least, from all these other teams until the 15th of January. Volcanics, do you think the Jays should trade Vladdy now? I would have, but I don't think the front office is going to. I think they're going to try to make one last run at it, and if they can bring in Alex Bregman, that'd be fantastic. If they can get a hometown discount for Vlad Guerrero Jr., fantastic. But I think he's going to go to free agency, and if he does, the big question for them becomes, are they still in contention at the trade deadline? If they are, do they keep Vladdy and hope for the best and that he signs in free agency back with them? Or do they make the decision and say, hey, we're going to cash in our chips now and make the most of it and see what we can do? Same thing with Bo Bichette. Now, if they get to free agency and they leave for nothing, that's going to hurt. That's why I think this offseason is very important for them to try to get some momentum going in a positive direction, because right now, that franchise is very much up in the air with their future. The front office is all in flux. That the manager could be fired by the end of the season. Vladdy and Bichette, probably the 2 biggest reasons why you would sign there, might be gone in a year. So I think that more than anything else is driving some of these other players away, which tells me you're going to have to overspend a lot of these other teams in order to get the deal done. For instance, Corbin Burns, I think, really wants to go to San Francisco versus Toronto. I think the money is probably a lot better in Toronto right now, and yet he's still leaning towards going towards San Francisco. At least that's the reports out there. But I think the Bregman signing would be absolutely perfect for them and kind of change the narrative around that team. Bringing in Santander, same kind of thing, changes the narrative. And then you can try to re-sign Vlad Guerrero Jr. You can try to re-sign or extend either Guerrero or Bichette. Those are some big questions the Blue Jays have to answer, and the worry that I have is still the same. I mean, we look at the San Francisco Giants before Buster Posey and during the Farhan Zaidi, reign. They didn't really get the top flight option that they were going for. Buster Posey comes in, year 1, gets Willy Adames, is the number 1 contender, at least right now, for Corbin Burns. Looks like they're going to upgrade at first base as well, possibly a Paul Goldschmidt. That seems to be a deal that's going to get done. At least I think he's going to get the most opportunity to play at first base there and possibly resurrect his career. Maybe an Anthony Rizzo, but I think Goldschmidt's probably the better fit there for them. But what a great offseason that would be in year 1. The reason why I bring up the Giants is because just like the Blue Jays, I worry about them falling into what the Giants have been the last 5 years. The Giants the last 5 years have been the team that's finished as the bridesmaid for Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Correa, Aaron Judge, and on and on and on that list goes. Instead, they sign a whole bunch of guys that are left on the market. Guys like Carlos Rodon, guys like Blake Snell. They take on risky deals like the money from Robbie Ray from the Mariners. Big risks financially that if it works out in the player's favor. If it doesn't work out, it still works out in the player's favor. They're never getting the number 1 choice during the Farhan Zaidi era. With the Toronto Blue Jays, they could very well be entering that same kind of a time frame right now because they're not getting the guys they've been shooting for the last couple of off seasons. Now, granted, those were probably more unrealistic than even the Giants were. You look at guys like Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto. They were in there, but to a lesser extent for Judge. They were definitely in there for Ohtani. You remember the erroneous report from John Paul Morosi saying he was on a plane going to Toronto. He's going to be a Toronto Blue Jay. Obviously, that was false. They were in there for Juan Soto, absolutely. But again, they finished as a bridesmaid once again. And I wonder if they don't get their top targets here, if they miss on Burns, if they miss on Bregman, say they're left with Anthony Santander just overpaying him, there's not a whole lot left that they can turn to in the free agent market and point to and say that's the future of our franchise. That's going to be a cornerstone we can build around. Because you can't say that about Vlad Guerrero Jr. right now or Bo Bichette. Until they sign an extension or sign in free agency next year, you can't make that argument. And that's why I think they're having a difficult time persuading free agents to sign in Toronto. Got about 75 of you guys, 76, 80 of y'all with us right now. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Really does help us out. We'll be live with you guys for a few more minutes here. We'll update you guys on anything else that might be happening in just a few minutes. If you guys have any questions, please send them in the chat before we head out for the night. We'll be live again tomorrow evening. Unfortunately, work week starts again next week, or tomorrow. So, we'll be back to the grind, but we'll be back live again tomorrow night between 8 and 9 o'clock. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network as well. What I mean is people thought the Dodgers had a contract before he was posted. Possibly. But again, we kind of knew what the deal was going to be anyway. So I get what you're trying to say, though, Hayden. But we kind of know what the contract was already going to look like a year ago at this time. Let's see here. I feel like the next big move is either Burns or Bregman. I'm right there with you on the free agent market. As trade goes, though, I still think Bellinger is the first one to get traded there. John, Rangers committed more than $500 million a few years ago to Seager and Simeon. That investment eventually led to a World Series victory. We were in on Max Fried. I get your argument there. He's kind of relating this to the Corbin Burns, free agency right now. I equate Corbin Burns more, though, to Nathan Eovaldi. That same offseason that they signed Jacob deGrom and Andrew Heaney, they also went out and got Nathan Eovaldi because he was still sitting out there. Teams hadn't committed to him yet, and so he went. Chris Young went to the ownership group and said, hey, we got a real opportunity, great starting pitcher out here, impact starter for us. There's opportunity on the market. Teams aren't pouncing on it. Can we go ahead and go over, the tax threshold to be able to bring him in, go over our budget? They did. They won. They got a World Series out of it, first time in franchise history. There could be the possibility the Rangers front office could convince ownership to open up a few more dollars to get Corbin Burns, but I still think Burns is very likely to go back to San Francisco at this point. Welcome back, Anthony. Haven't seen you in a minute. Do you have any updates on the Cubs and Marlins trade for Jesus Luzardo? We did check in on that one on Friday, Saturday, and today as well. It still seems to be in the works. Cubs are looking to upgrade their rotation. Luzardo would be a cheaper option than some of the free agent acquisitions they've been eyeing, most notably Walker Buehler. I think Buehler is probably the guy that ultimately goes there. But if they can get a trade for Jesus Luzardo, that'd be a great move for them as well, because then they can add some more pieces to that offense with the money they save from getting that deal done rather than spending it on a starting pitcher in free agency. Maybe they offload the deal for Cody Bellinger, and then they have even more money to add to their from which they can use to sign other players. John, that's why I think they'll make a serious offer for Corbin. I'm right there with you. I'm sure that they've at least made a legitimate offer to him. I would not be surprised if we see, a day later, like we just saw for the Rays, about the Juan Soto interest there, that we find again that the Rangers were in on Corbin Burns. Would not be a surprise at all. I keep hearing that the Marlins this offseason, even with this Tommy John surgery, are going to trade Sandy. There's no way they're going to trade this low on Alcantara. I think he is going to get moved possibly at the deadline or in the offseason next year. I don't think there's any way they sell this low on Alcantara. Alrighty, going to stay with you guys for a minute or two more, so be sure to send us your question if you have it before we head out for the night. Hayden, when do you think the Max Fried conference is, and will Yankees introduce Devin Williams? I would expect sometime this week. I wouldn't expect it to take too much longer. I know these deals take a little bit of time. You have to worry about the physical and all that kind of a thing, but they will become official. I don't think there's going to be, a rigorous physical to the point where you wonder if the deal is actually going to get done. But you kind of do the. Let me just see if you're okay. Hold on. Let me just check your temperature with my hand. Oh, you're good. You're fine. I think that's kind of what we're going to get with Max Fried, even with the injury issues that he has had in his past. And same thing for Devin Williams after he punched a wall. What is it with relief pitchers and punching the wall? By the way, Mason Miller did the same thing, ended his season last year with the Oakland A's last year anyway. And then Devin Williams punched a wall as well. I mean, what is it with relief pitchers? Get a hold of yourself. Find something else. Do anything else rather than use your pitching hand and punch a wall. Cinder block ain't moving. Your bones are going to break. Let's stop doing that now, shall we? Mason Miller would have been a great trade at the deadline last year. Ultimately, the injury really cost the A's a real chance at trading him. And come on, guys, let's not punch walls anymore. Welcome back, Liberty. Anything on the Angels? Nothing too big out there. They're still looking to improve around the periphery of their team. Torres is probably the biggest name they've been connected with, at least right now. And then, of course, the Nolan Arenado had used or said he was going to waive his no trade to go to the Angels as a possibility. That was earlier in the week. Some of former Angels are making some news, with Griffin Canning being connected with the New York Mets as well. Volcanics, are the Cubs actually going to compete this year? That's their intention. They're quote-unquote all in for 2025, according to beat reporters for the Cubs. So we'll see what that means. They did bring in Kyle Tucker. We'll see what else they do. Anthony, would you consider Toronto a mid-market or a big-market team? I would consider them a massive market team. They're basically Canada's team. Be Rich, pretend we agree that Tavares is the biggest weakness in Rangers' chain. Okay. How can Texas replace him from outside the organization, setting aside the internal options? I think they could already do it with internal options. True. With Evan Carter is coming back healthy. He's expected to be ready to go for spring training. For me, I would rather put Wyatt Langford in center field right now for a 162-game season. Understandably, that would give him a lot of wear and tear later on in his career. But for this season at least, I'm comfortable putting Wyatt Langford there. And then when Adolis is gone after the year, move him over to right field. Then you put Evan Carter out there in center field if he's productive enough. But they have internal options for left field that include Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran. They could also bring up in some other guys externally. So you asked who they could bring in from outside the organization. I wrote down this list of players here. Let me grab it real quick. That are still on the board, at least for outfielders. For me, you look at left fielders who could be available. Profar, Canna, Hayes, Verdugo, Pham, Jankowski, Duval, Winker, Peralta. Center field, Bader, Taylor, Hampton, Pilar, Hicks, Margot, Hernandez. Right fielders, Santander, Hernandez, Kepler, Hayward, Grichuk, and Liriano. Then you get to the DHs. Peterson's been the one that they've been connected to the most. Of all those options that I just mentioned, if I'm the Rangers looking for a bat, I would be looking at possibly Alex Verdugo and Adam Duvall, players like that. Winker to a lesser extent. They've been connected to him before. I wouldn't really like that one too much. Pham has really hurt the Rangers at different times when he's been on other clubs. And, maybe they go that direction. That would be a possibility as well. Maybe they go back to the well for Jankowski. But I think more likely would be a guy like Verdugo or Duvall. Those would be the guys I would be targeting. But it sounds like they would prefer Jock Peterson, even though I would go in a different direction. Where do I think Pete Alonso goes? I still think Alonso goes back to the Mets. 6 for 185. I've upped my original projection. I had thought he was going to sign for, say, 5 for 125, 5 for 135 after the Soto signing. But now, according to Ken Rosenthal, his market is up to $180 million. That's still a little rich for a first baseman, honestly, but we're seeing kind of an uptick in money. Freddie Freeman had probably the best contract in recent memory for a first baseman. Before that, you have to go back to Prince Fielder and Albert Pujols. First basemen really haven't been paid well recently. And so if he can reset the market a little bit a year before Vladdy gets to free agency, boy, Vladdy could really do well next year, especially with his better defensive versatility, third base, first base, better defensively at first base, a little bit better base runner, hits for average in addition to power. He's going to do great in free agency next year if Pete Alonso gets 185. That'd be a great number for him. If the trade falls through between the Cubs and Marlins, how about the Marlins go back to Texas and trade Jesus Luzardo? No, thank you. As a Ranger fan, no, thank you. I don't want Jesus Luzardo. You can trade him to the A's, who are still looking for another starting pitcher. You can trade him to the Rockies, who need any starting pitching, honestly. I don't want Jesus Luzardo. I'd rather go into the season with what I've got right now. Rangers currently have DeGrom, Eovaldi, Gray, Molly, Kumar Rocker, Bradford, Jack Leiter, and a few other options that they've signed recently as depth guys. But for me, I'd rather go into the season with that roster than bringing in a guy like Jesus Luzardo. I just don't think he's going to work in Texas. I don't think he's going to be able to get to the status we all thought he was going to at one point. I think he's a good number 5 starter on a decent team. I think he's a good number 4 starter on a bad team. On a team that's looking to compete for a World Series, I think he shouldn't be in the rotation. So if you're hoping to have World Series aspirations, he would not be a guy I would be trying to acquire. I think if you're trying to push for a division title, you could be in that decent category and possibly fit him in as your number 4 or 5 starter. And if he works out, great. But as a Rangers fan, I just don't want him. I'd rather go with what I've got. I'd rather leave spots in that rotation for Kumar and for Leiter and go young rather than bring in Jesus Luzardo, trade away pieces for him as well. No, thank you. Thank you, Liberty. Thank you. You are great as always. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. If you guys are new here, hit that like and subscribe. About to log off for the night, so if you have a question, please feel free to send it here in the next 30 seconds. We're about to head out here any moment. Anthony, how are the Mets going to afford this if they're going to sign Vlad Guerrero next year? Steve Cohen. The reason why I say that, I think they could afford Shohei Ohtani. I think they could afford Aaron Judge. I think they could afford Kyle Tucker. I think they could go out there and bring in Carlos Correa. His pockets are completely endless. I don't think there's any compunction about money right now for that Mets organization. It's only about what are they able to actually get done. And so for me, they did a great job bringing in Juan Soto. I think they're going to be able to bring in Pete Alonso. And then next year, I think they're going to push hard for both Tucker and for Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think both of those guys would fit big holes in that lineup right now for the Mets organization. Tucker fits perfectly as a Marte replacement in there. As far as Vlad Guerrero Jr., say you bring him in, he immediately goes to first base. You put Alonso as your DH. Sure, you don't like having a professional DH, but just ask the Red Sox how it worked out having David Ortiz. They're a team that can afford to have a full-time DH making $20, $30 million a year because of, say it with me, Steve Cohen. Alrighty, your guess is Vlad gets $600 million. I don't think he gets over 5. I think he gets over 3.5 right now. If he declined $340, I would say he probably is going to clear $400. I don't think he gets over 5 though. Last question: do you think there will be trades this week? Yes, I do. I do believe we'll see a Ryan Presley trade from the Houston Astros. I believe we'll see a Bellinger trade from the Chicago Cubs. Keep an eye out for the Rangers possibly making a trade for a reliever as well. Jordan Montgomery could be on the move. I haven't heard any teams really, pushing for that. We could see a Nolan Arenado trade as well. So I am keeping an eye out on the trade market for a bunch of those options. Maybe we get surprised and the Orioles, after Corbin Burnes signs with either, one of the Blue Jays, the Giants, or the Rangers, or the Red Sox, or wherever he goes, maybe we get a Dylan Cease or Luis Castillo trade. Alec Boehm could be traded as well. Phillies have been strangely quiet, and this was an offseason where they were expected to shake up their roster. They're still very quiet. They haven't shaken up their roster yet. Do not expect them to be quiet this week. I think we will get some significant seismic activity out of Philadelphia. So thank you guys for joining us. Absolutely. Appreciate you, Mark. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN, Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Whenever we do go live, we will send out a tweet or a notification letting you know so. YouTube will do the same thing as well. So thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun with you guys this week. Gained over 130 subscribers this week. Really do appreciate all the support. Let's keep it going. And we'll be back again tomorrow night recapping the day that was in Major League Baseball. Hopefully we get a signing of Corbin Burnes, a trade of Bellinger. Maybe Bregman finally comes off the market. Let us know in the chat after we log off here where you guys think the next move comes from. Let's see. John, the last comment here. Bleacher has predicted Burnes will sign with the Sox. Contract 6 years, $218 million. Maybe there are that mystery team. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow night.